Okay, so we are discussing on Lady Macbeth and her appreciations and her importance in the Shakespearean play Macbeth. In Act 1, Scene 7, after Macbeth's soliloquy, there enters Lady Macbeth, and Lady Macbeth says, how now? What news? And Lady Macbeth answers, he has almost supped. So actually, Macbeth is asking about the situation. That means, what is the news about Duncan? Lady Macbeth says, he has almost supped. Why have you left the chamber? Macbeth says, had he asked for me, Lady Macbeth, know you not he was. And Macbeth, we will proceed no further in this business. So you find that Macbeth is here flying from the situation. Why? Because Macbeth is suffering from a kind of an anxiety. It's a kind of a conflict that he was in. Uh, so Macbeth says, we will proceed no further in this business. What is the business? The business is killing Duncan. He hath honored me of late. So that is the fundamental crisis where Macbeth was in. Macbeth says, he hath honored me of late, and I have bought golden opinions from all sorts of people, which would be worn now in the newest gloss, not cast aside so soon. So Macbeth is suffering from a particular crisis because Macbeth has single-handedly fought the battle between Norway and Scotland, and somehow he has been honored by Duncan. And at this very moment, if he does the heinous crime, the crime of killing Duncan, that somehow this particular gloss, this particular honor would be completely being negated. Lady Macbeth says, and then it's the instigating Lady Macbeth. What she says, Lady Macbeth says, was the hope drunk? Where dressed yourself? Have it sleep since, and wakes it now to look so green and pale at what it did so freely. From this time, such I account thy love. Art thou afeard to be the same in thine own act and valor as thou art in desire? That means what you can think, you can do, right? So wouldst thou have that which thou esteem the ornament of life, and leave it coward in thine own esteem, letting I dare not wait upon I would, like the poor cat in the adage. So this is the remarks, these are the words, these are the instigating words that Lady Macbeth is projecting. It's the unrelenting tirades that Lady Macbeth is throwing upon Macbeth. Macbeth says, prithee peace. I dare do all that may become a man. Who dares do more is none. And Lady Macbeth says, what beast was it then that made you break this enterprise to me? So you are now thinking about a man. You are now thinking about the manly interpretations or manly enterprises. So when you told me about all these things, then you were not a man. You were like a beast, right? So that's why Lady Macbeth says, what beast was it then that made you break this enterprise to me? When you durst do it, then you were a man. So it is not the typical manly enterprises that you are showing at this moment. Because the typical heroic enterprises or heroic endeavors, it indicates the typical manliness within you. You were a man when you could think that I would become the king. Okay? And to be more than what you were, you would be so much more than man. Not time, not place did then adhere. And yet you would make both. They have made themselves, and that the fitness now does unmake you. And then the famous lines, these are very important so far as Lady Macbeth's character is concerned, so far as the theme of gender ambiguity is concerned. Lady Macbeth says, I have given suck and know how tender it is to love the babe that milks me. So, do you not find here that Lady Macbeth is actually referring to? Do you not find here that Lady Macbeth is actually referring to the concept of a mother and the motherliness? She says, I have given suck and know how tender it is to love the babe that milks me. So the question suddenly arises, how much or how many children did Lady Macbeth have? Okay, somehow the question may not be answered uh, considering Shakespeare's Macbeth. But in Holinshed's Chronicle, there was a reference of Lady Macbeth's uh, former husband and a child from him. So somehow here she says that I have given suck and know how tender it is to love the babe that milks me. I would, while it was smiling in my face, have plucked my nipples from his boneless gums and dashed the brains out, had I so sworn as you have done to this. So that is the fundamental thing that Lady Macbeth says here. She says that I can kill my child. Okay, at the very moment when I am feeding her. So that is the temperament that is very striking and very, very disturbing in case of Lady Macbeth. And Lady Macbeth says that so much cruelty is present within me. I can do that. So if a mother can do all these things, you cannot, or how can it be possible that a man like you cannot kill Duncan? So that is the fundamental instigation that Lady Macbeth is doing here. Macbeth, a kind of, he is to some extent being moved. He says, if we should fail, and Lady Macbeth says, we fail, but screw your courage to the sticking place, and we will not fail. When Duncan is asleep, where to the rather shall his days herd journey soundly invite him? His two chamberlains will I with wine and assail so convince that memory, the water of the brain, shall be fume, and receipt of reason a limbic only. When in Sweeney's sleep the drenched nature lie as in a death, what can you and I perform upon the ungirded Duncan? So Lady Macbeth is already scheming. You see, the scheme is already being prepared. That's what she will do. What cannot you and I perform upon the unguarded Duncan? What not put upon his spongy officers who shall bear the guilt of our great quell? So she's also thinking about coloring the officers, coloring the chamberlains with the blood from Duncan. Macbeth says, what is Macbeth's reaction? That is very striking. Macbeth says, bring forth men children only, for thy undaunted mettle should compose nothing but males. That means there is nothing womanly within you. There is nothing, feminine within you. All these enterprises, all these schemings, all these thoughts, these are actually, or these can actually uh, being reciprocated in terms of the male. So bring forth male children only, for thy undaunted metal should compose nothing but males. Will it not be received when we have marked with blood the sleepy two of his own chamber, and used their very daggers that they have done it? Lady Macbeth says, who dares receive it other? As we shall make our griefs and clamour roar upon this word death. Macbeth says, I am settled. And bend up each corporal agent to this terrible feat, away, the mock the time with fairest show. False face must hide what false heart doth know. So that is the final scene of Act 1. So what it indicates, you can find that somehow these are the lines, these are the sections where we can find that Lady Macbeth is somehow preparing for the death of Duncan, and somehow when we find in the next few scenes where Duncan is being killed by Macbeth, somehow Macbeth is bringing the dagger with him, and Lady Macbeth could find that it is not possible for Macbeth to return to Duncan's bedroom again. And then Lady Macbeth moves there, and just she has done everything cleanly. Somehow, Lady Macbeth, in a particular section, Lady Macbeth says that if Duncan wouldn't resemble her father, Lady Macbeth would kill Duncan somehow. That is a fundamental line that we have to focus on. Okay, there she says that had he not resembled my father, I have done it. What does it implicate? Somehow you will find that so long we have discussed about the the cruelty that Lady Macbeth had. If we transfer the cruelty with the male enterprises or the men or manly interpretations, then we can find that in Lady Macbeth there are some implications that can lead Lady Macbeth towards a male enterprise, that can lead Lady Macbeth towards the cruelty and so. Now we have to think about the other section. What is the other section? The other section is whether Lady Macbeth had anything positive in her or not. That means the weakness that Lady Macbeth had. Okay. First of all, I would like you to notice the particular line that I have just remarked here, just mentioned here. Had he not resembled my father, I have done it. Why? What leads Lady Macbeth to fly from the situation from there? She says, had he not resembled, he is Duncan. Had Duncan not resembled my father, that is Lady Macbeth's father, I would done it. That means it indicates that Lady Macbeth somehow she tried to kill Duncan. But when she tried to kill Duncan, somehow she could find that Duncan's body or Duncan's face, okay, it makes her remember her own father. Do you not find it is a kind of a weakness that is there? Obviously, it is. So somehow, it is not a weakness. Actually, it is the tenderness that is present within Lady Macbeth. Actually, Lady Macbeth is suppressing her emotions. One particular emotion that is becoming dominant, and that is ambition. Obviously, she also wants to become the queen and make Macbeth the king. And another emotion, the other emotions are related to her original emotions. Okay, that is the meekness and tenderness, and the other womanly enterprises that is being found in Macbeth. Somehow, that particular emotion that I'm already suggesting here, that is an ambition that is already present in Lady Macbeth, it is dominating, and somehow it is making the other emotions repressed. Okay, and this repression leads to various kinds of disturbances within one's psyche, and that will be indicated in Act 5, Scene 1. That is actually called the sleepwalking scene. It is also another important scene to discuss. In Act 5, Scene 1, we find that Lady Macbeth is suffering from a particular kind of a crisis. And what is the crisis? She is being suffering from somnambulism. That is called sleepwalking. What sleepwalking or somnambulism is actually it means, uh, that means, what is sleep? Throughout Macbeth, you will find that sleep is being considered as a dominant metaphor. Sleep is being considered. There is a particular place where Macbeth actually opined about sleep. He says that sleep is the chief nourisher in life's feast. Okay, it is to some extent it can soothe the troubled mind. Right, all these things have been there. Uh, Here you will find that there is another section where you can find that Macbeth is saying that Glamis hath murdered sleep, therefore Cawdor can sleep no more, Macbeth can sleep no more. Or here lay Duncan, you see, the Duncan is sleeping and Macbeth is envious about Duncan's peaceful sleep, and so sleep is repeatedly being used in this particular play, that is in Macbeth, as a dominant metaphor, because sleep can lead you to peace, and that particular peace is completely losing or being lost in Macbeth's life. So what is sleep? Sleep uh, is a particular peaceful state of mind, you see, right? And the sleepwalking in Lady Macbeth is also important, as I mentioned just now. Why? Because Lady Macbeth is sleeping, but her mind cannot sleep. Okay, physically he is asleep or she is asleep, but her mind is completely being awake. And certainly this particular thing is referring to a kind of disturbance that you can find from the words of the doctor. I'm reading from the text. It is Act 5, Scene 1. It is very important. It is called the sleepwalking scene, as I mentioned just now. And in this particular section, we can find that it actually indicates Lady Macbeth's mental disturbances, right? And when the disturbances actually come. When it comes, when you are suffering from a kind of an anxiety, when you are repressing something, it comes from the repression, and it is not depression, it is repression, and it is actually indicating the mental disturbance that you are feeling. And somehow when you can feel, just because here Lady Macbeth always she tried to control her emotions, okay, with the help of the dominant emotion, that is over ambitions, obviously. Here in Act 5, Scene 1, I'm reading from that particular section. So Act 5, Scene 1, Dunsinian, a room in the castle. Enter a doctor of physic and a waiting gentlewoman. Doctor said, I have 2 nights watched with you. but can perceive no truth in your report. When was it she last walked? And gentlewoman says, since his majesty went into the field. I have seen her rise from her bed, what Lady Macbeth does actually. I have seen her rise from her bed, throw her nightgown upon her, unlock her closet, take forth paper, fold it, write upon it, read it, afterwards seal it, and again return to bed. Yet all this while in a most fast asleep. Doctor says a great perturbation in nature. Mind the words of the doctor. What he says, a great perturbation in nature to receive at once the benefit of sleep and do the effects of watching. Both these things are coming at a time. In this slumbery agitation, it's an oxymoronic term. Slumber means sleep and agitation. So in this slumbery agitation, besides her walking and other actual performances, what at any time have you heard her say? So in that particular form of sleepwalking, does she say anything? The gentleman says, that sir, which I will not report after her. So she speaks, obviously. She says something. She utters something. But the words that she discloses, it must not be reported. So doctor says, you may to me, and it is most meet you should. And gentlewoman says, neither to you nor anyone, having no witness to confirm my speech. Lo you, here she comes. And enter Lady Macbeth with a taper. Lady Macbeth says, okay, enter Lady Macbeth with a taper. This is her very guise, and upon my life, fast asleep. Observe her, stand close. Doctor says, how came she by the light? So Lady Macbeth, Lady Macbeth, gentlewoman says, why it stood by her. She has light by her continually, it is a common. So Lady Macbeth fears darkness. Can you imagine that? In the last section that I have discussed there was a particular section, come you night, come selling night. Okay, there was a reference. Okay, so she invoked darkness, and now at the last section of this particular play, you will find that Lady Macbeth is fearing darkness. That is a fundamental change within her character. Doctor says, you see, her eyes are open, and gentlewoman, yes, but their sense is shut. And doctor, what is it she does now? Look how she rubs her hands. So what she does in the scene where Duncan has been killed, there Lady Macbeth comes and says, my hands are of your color. That means the blood tinged hands, you see. And now Lady Macbeth always, she's trying to clear away the marks of blood from her hand. So doctor says, you see her eyes are open. And the woman says, yes, but their sense is shut. And doctor, what is it she does now? Look how she rubs her hands, gentlemen. It is an accustomed action with her to seem thus washing her hands regularly. I have known her continue in this a quarter of an hour. Lady Macbeth says, yet here is a spot. Doctor says, hark, she speaks. I will set down what comes from her to satisfy the remembrance the more strongly. Lady Macbeth says, mark the words, out, damned spot, out, I say, one, two. Why then? It is time to do it. Hell is murky. Actually, it is referring to the killing of Duncan. So hell is murky. Fie, my lord, fie. I soldiered and I feared. What need we fear? Who knows it? When none can call our power to account. Yet who would have thought the old man to have had so much blood in him? So this is referring to Duncan. Doctor says, do you mark that? Lady Macbeth continues, the Thane of Fife had a wife. The Thane of Fife is Macduff. So it is referring to Lady Macduff. So as I suggested earlier, that Lady Macduff, the killing of Lady Macduff is meaningless to some extent. Macbeth did that, right? It actually indicates Macbeth's criminality, right? And somehow there is a particular critical remark regarding Lady Macduff's death, that Lady Macbeth didn't want this to happen. So somehow this is being represented in the sleepwalking scene. Lady Macbeth says, the Thane of Fife had a wife. Where is she now? What? Will these hands never be clean? No more on that, my lord. No more on that. You mar all with this starting. Actually, it is indicating towards Banquet scene. Doctor says, go to, go to. You have known what you should not. Gentlewoman says, she has spoke what she should not. I am sure of that. Heaven knows what she has known. Lady Macbeth says, here is the smell of blood still. All the perfumes of Arabia will not sweeten this little hand. Oh, oh, oh. And Dr. Watts sighs there. The heart is sorely charged. And gentleman says, I would not have such a heart in my bosom for the dignity of the whole body. And doctor, well, 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 pray God it be, sir. And doctor says, this disease is beyond my practice. Yet I have known those which have walked in their sleep who have died holily in their beds. And Lady Macbeth says, wash your hands, put on your nightgown, look not so pale. I tell you yet again, Banquo is buried. He cannot come out on his grave. So it is indicating towards the banquet scene where Banquo's ghost is being seen by Macbeth. So all these words is being spoken by Lady Macbeth. And Doctor says, even so. And Lady Macbeth continues, to bed, to bed. There is knocking at the gate. So it is indicating the porter scene, or the porter. Come, 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 come. Give me your hand. What is done cannot be undone. To bed, to bed, to bed. So these are the words that have been spoken by Lady Macbeth here. So do you not find that Lady Macbeth is suffering from the anxiety? Do you not find that it is actually indicating Lady Macbeth's weakness? Do you not find that it is actually indicating Lady Macbeth's, say, typical womanliness that it indicates? Yes, obviously there are. And fundamentally, at the end, towards the end of this particular play, we will find that Lady Macbeth commits suicide. Okay? It is not Macbeth, rather, it is Lady Macbeth who is committing suicide. Somehow, when a person, obviously, it is some kind of insanity that Lady Macbeth was in, it's kind of a repression that brings to the depression, and somehow it got insanity, and somehow he commits suicide. Okay, so ultimately we can find that from the first half of the play, you can find that in Lady Macbeth is considered as an instigator. Lady Macbeth is always considered as an over ambitious person. She is suffering from that over ambition within her. She is instigating Macbeth into doing that. She is playing all the performances, right? Everything was there. She is doing all these things, and at the end, we can find that Lady Macbeth is suffering from different kinds of crises. She is suffering from the inner anxiety. She is suffering from a kind of a perturbation in nature. She is suffering from a kind of repression, and she is ultimately killing herself. So these are the two sections, these are the two sects of Lady Macbeth that we have to focus on, right? So today, up to this, uh, in our next class, we will discuss on two scenes or three scenes probably. The first one is obviously it is referring to the dagger scene, okay, and there is banquet scene, there is porter scene, and obviously there are some sections from the other questions like major images in Macbeth and Banquo and Macbeth study in contrast. All these things have to be to be done in detail. Okay, so today up to this. Thank you.